Hello and welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. Yes, I saw that look. I'm going to say the word amazing every time, and I don't care what you think. But as always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me. A man who went to Hogwarts with Albus Dumbledore himself, my dad, Tim.
I would have loved that.
That would have been cool.
I would have, well, for one thing, I wouldn't be a muggle, I'd be a wizard.
We are both muggles.
We are both definitely muggles.
I always laugh when people who are like my age that are still obsessed with Harry Potter. One, time to grow up. It's a kid book. Two, you're obviously a muggle, even if it was real. You were not given a letter.
Well, you came
Move on.
You came to it late.
I didn't start reading the books until I was 28 years old.
Your brother Ryan and I were the ones that were at the store at midnight when they released each new book.
Yeah. It's a great book. I have my Hufflepuff t-shirt from when I went to
Universal
Diagon Alley, whatever they call it down there. I mean, yeah, I'm all for it. Dressing up like Harry Potter just for the heck of it, not on Halloween, is weird.
No argument. At one time, I could have probably done a master's thesis on Harry Potter because I read them. I listened to the audiobook. I listened to the audiobooks. I loved them.
Yeah, but you weren't a 40-year-old man dressing like a wizard.
I was never going to dress like it. No. All these people who say, well, these are talking about witchcraft. No, it's just good versus evil.
Well, it is talking about witchcraft, but it's good versus evil.
There is nothing, it's not witchcraft in like the old Salem witches thing. These guys were given a gift at birth.
Right.
They actually celebrate Christmas at Hogwarts.
You know, it's funny, like a guy leads people away from evil, dies, and then rises again to save all the people at Hogwarts. It's like we've heard that story before.
Maybe.
But I want to talk about more interesting things, which is the Home Run Derby. We're recording this Tuesday. The All-Star Game is tonight, but the Home Run Derby was last night.
It was fun.
It wasn't.
Well, I take it for what it is.
Baseball ruined another great part.
Yeah, because all they did was how fast can you swing and how many home runs you can swing.
They have destroyed the Home Run Derby. It used to be such an amazing thing. I know I've overused that word, but I try and use it cautiously. But they ruined something that was great. It really was great. It was 10 outs.
The one with the 10 outs.
10 outs. I get people weren't swinging as often, and it was taking a longer time because you only had 10 outs. But what's the greatest part of watching a home run? It's watching the ball fly out and see where it lands. You remember in 1999 in Boston when Mark McGwire took one so far over the outfield fence, the Green Monster, that it hit a light. Remember in 2001 when Sammy Sosa hit the top of the scoreboard and then, by the way, broke a light on the scoreboard in Miller Park because of how far he hit it.
Or the most iconic home run in home run derby history, Griffey Jr. actually hitting the factory behind Camden Yards in Baltimore.
Or was it Josh from the Rangers?
Hamilton.
Josh Hamilton hitting the back of center field in Yankee Stadium. That highlight's shown all the time.
That was a bomb of all bombs.
You've taken that away. You don't even know the camera can't keep up. You don't know what's in, what's out. And so instead of actually watching the home run derby, all you're doing is watching a clicker on the top left side of the screen to see how many home runs he hit.
What I miss and what baseball has screwed up, and I'll admit to this, I'm getting away from the home run derby a little bit. What they've really screwed up is the fact that they no longer celebrate baseball's past. This was in the 1980s. They had the Cracker Jack Old Timers game where they brought back the Warren Spahns, the Henry Aarons, the Willie Mays. The first one they had, Luke Appling, 75 years old, hit a home run off of Warren Spahn. That is still remembered. I didn't have to look up his name. I still remember that. It was such a moment. And they don't have to do an Old Timers game every year. I get where that might be a bit much, but every 5 years, bring back the Ken Griffey Jr.'s, the Greg Maddoxes, the Nolan Ryans, and let them play because that's the people I grew up with. It's baseball's past, and today's fans and new fans need to be taught about these older guys. I would love to see Johnny Bench behind the plate again.
And don't play softball.
No, play baseball. Do an old
The whole celebrity softball game is the most boring thing you can put on television.
It's ridiculous, and it should never be played again. An old timers game, though, if they moved in the fences a little bit, of course.
Right.
But the guys had fun with it.
Yeah, I think it would be great. Yeah, you move in the fence to,
whatever,
200 or whatever it is. But it would be really cool to see the older guys play, and I think it is more. I think they should do that in the NBA too, honestly.
It'd be fun.
Instead of the celebrity basketball game, bring back Jordan, bring back Barkley, bring back Shaq.
Bring back Kareem.
And see. It would be great to watch.
It would
Just
be.
to see the old guys play against each other. It won't be as competitive.
No,
but that's not the point.
And the old timers game wasn't meant to be competitive. It was just fun to watch them play because you all of a sudden are reliving your childhood.
It's what a lot of people miss today, which is the connection to the past.
Correct.
You know who else should be invited to those games that you missed? Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Mark McGwire.
I actually agree with you on that because I think, and here's why. We survived the steroids era. The decision's been made. They're not going into the Hall of Fame anytime soon, nor should they. However, it's time to soften their image. They are part of the history, and it's time to, at least, if you're going to do that, you let Pete Rose play in the old timers game. You recognize Pete Rose for the 50 greatest players of all time. Yes, Bonds should be allowed to play. Clemens should be allowed to play. They're part of the game's history. They're part of your childhood. So you can't just erase what happened. You don't have to recognize them in the Hall of Fame, but yes, you should allow them to play. I surprised you.
Are you feeling okay?
I don't have to like what they did, but they were players, and
I agree. It'll be so exciting to watch Clemens versus Bonds in an old timers game. It just would.
Sure, I'm sure Bonds would juice before he played, but
he never stopped.
Yeah,
I don't think any of them did. But to see Sammy Sosa out there again, like him or not, I mean, he's a little bit paler than he used to be, but he would be.
Almost made me spit Coke.
If he wore some pink thing, dude, he looked like an eraser. Like it was bad look. But to see McGwire out there, to see Sosa out there, especially putting them on different teams, and watching a 1998 again where they're going against each other,
put them back.
Have them back
in the lineup.
Having an old timers home run derby, even where you have Sosa and McGwire going at it again, that would be awesome.
I don't think that had ever happened. I don't think either. McGwire could probably still get it out there. I don't know if Sosa could, but
these guys would train for it. If they were given a couple years advance, you better believe they're going to come in shape.
You got to soften the image of baseball and heal that giant divide that sits between you and I as far as that era goes.
It is a divide between current baseball fans and older baseball fans. The 90s is a black mark because of Bud Selig, and we need a commissioner that's strong enough to undo what that man did.
We need a strong commissioner. I agree with you. We don't have one now. I agree with you. We're not going to rehash the Bud Selig.
I won. I saw the video.
You did not win. I saw the video as well. You were foolish. But that's another. We'll link that video.
Or just go back a week and see last week's video.
Yeah.
People are smart. They can figure it out.
I think you're supposed to link them. It's part of the whole YouTube thing.
Yeah, it's too much work. Go back in the channel and go back to last week's video. I believe in you. You'll see it.
But I want to see the old timers play. I want to see baseball's history celebrated again. The home run derby, it was fun. The best part about the entire night for me was seeing the catcher from Baltimore, and I'm going to butcher his name. Ouch.
Don't look at me.
Whatever. But his dad was pitching to him.
Yeah. That's always fun to see.
I mean, Bryce Harper's
dad pitched to him when he won it. That's one of the greatest things about the home run derby is you get to bring along whoever you want to pitch to you. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
But the home run derby, what they've done to it is an absolute travesty. Like, this isn't about how long it takes. If you're worried about how long it takes, then make the outs less. Like, instead of 10 outs, make it 7 or 6 if that's what you feel like you need to do. But you've taken away what was exciting to watch about it. It was to see how far these guys can hit these balls. You're bringing in juiced balls already. Those are clearly balls that are more juiced than a normal baseball. That's why they're different colors. You are using probably the same bats, but they're made for home runs, right?
Sure.
You're using a separate bat than you'd actually use in a game. Because if you're not, you're foolish.
Vlad Guerrero Jr. had 2 bats last night. He had one that he started with.
Right.
When he got tired, it had a thinner handle, weighed a little less. He switched to
Smart to do.
Yeah.
These guys, but now you're literally making them do these cardio exercise. They're taking more swings in these home run derbies than they'll take in the next month in a baseball game.
Adley Rauchman was the catcher from Baltimore. That his dad was there. He was the best last night, and he lost in the first round, but he did the first half of the home run derby left-handed. For the bonus time he got, he did it right-handed. He's a switch hitter.
Yeah.
The man's got power from both sides. It was amazing to watch.
Imagine if he only had 10 outs and had to figure it out. It makes it much more exciting.
I'm
For
not
those saying,
disagreeing with
oh
you.
man, I can't wait for him to get to 10 outs because he's hitting so many home runs before he got to the 10 outs. Well, that's impressive.
You better go up and be ready to hit.
Right. And if you're playing the competition, right, don't hit a whole bunch of home runs. Just hit enough that you need to win the thing and then move on.
That cost Rodriguez from Seattle last night.
Yeah.
I think he was gassed by the end of it.
Yeah, they are, because it's a cardio exercise now. It's a complete cardio exercise, and we don't want to see cardio. We want to see powerlifters. We want to see these guys take them as far back as they can go.
So the All-Star game is tonight.
It is.
And now I'm going to sound like that old guy, and I'm proud to do it. When I was a kid, National League and American League never saw each other until
Correct.
the World Series. This game was for pride.
Right.
The starting pitchers would go 3 or 4 innings.
Yeah.
It wasn't changing out pitchers every inning. It wasn't an exercise in make sure everybody gets a participation trophy.
Correct. You got invited.
You got invited. Be happy about that. You don't get to play necessarily.
Nope.
And let's play the game to win the game. When I think it was Robin Yount actually, or Brooks or Cal Ripken a couple times.
Yeah.
They played the majority of the game.
Right.
Joe Morgan, I think, played the entirety of a game one year, and there's nothing wrong with that. These are your best players. You're out there to win the game.
Right.
Let's play it like a real game. That's what made the baseball all-star game so much better than every other sport.
Correct.
Because you were watching them actually play.
Right. Here's what bugs me about it is people are saying, well, there's a lot of money on the table. What if they get hurt? They're getting paid a lot of money.
Correct.
This is all part of it. They've earned this. They're here to win. They're here to have a good time as well. But let them go out and enjoy what they've earned. Let people go the distance when they have a no-hitter to enjoy what they've earned.
You would think that would be a no-brainer. And a lot of these people are going, well, then their team isn't going to have him for his next start. Oh, well, he earned an honor. He's an all-star.
Right. You're not worried about
You better have
the season, but it's called the Midseason Classic for a reason.
You better have a good enough team to survive him missing one start.
Right.
And if he goes 3 innings, he'll be able to start.
Right. I mean, you don't need this 1 inning special thing. Plus, because you have people in there for 1 inning that know they're in there for 1 inning, and so they're just going to throw it as hard as they can. So in reality, they're more at risk for just 1 inning than they are going 3 to 5.
Correct, because their warm-ups are going to be completely different than what they normally do. Well, speaking of...
I have another idea before we move on, because I have another idea for the All-Star game, and I was thinking about this the other night, right? Because everybody's trying to get more global with the game. Okay? So my thought is, and this may not work for Major League Baseball, but this is 100% something that will work for the NFL and something the NFL 100% needs to do. But instead of just having it in the United States all the time as the All-Star game, move it overseas. Play an All-Star game in Japan. Play an All-Star game in England. Play an All-Star game in Germany.
Okay, I don't think that'll work for baseball.
Now, for baseball, it's in the middle of the season,
It's the
right?
middle season. You can't take that much time off.
You can't.
For
And
NFL,
hold on, and plus the going to different ballparks in the All-Star game is such
it's a big thing for the
big
city.
thing, and it's a huge part of baseball is seeing this played in different parks. It's a great thing for the fans. So you can't do it with Major League Baseball necessarily. So I understand that. For the NFL, for them not to play their Pro Bowl in different parts of the world, because I tell you what, nobody in America cares.
No. And
Nobody's going to this game. You're not even playing a game anymore.
They need to move it after the Super Bowl,
Move it after the Super Bowl
back where it belongs.
and treat it as something the players earned and get to enjoy. Basically, you've told the players, well, this is a Pro Bowl, so this is something you have to go to, and we're trying to draw fans to this. That's not what the Pro Bowl was ever supposed to be. It was a free vacation to Hawaii because you earned it being one of the best players. It's almost like being a Pro Bowl player is a punishment now.
In a lot of people's eyes, yeah, because it's in Orlando. Let's face it, most families going to Hawaii is great.
Correct.
Going to Orlando, yeah.
So if you're the NFL, move it to the end of the season and play. You're trying to get more global. You're playing games overseas now. Move your Pro Bowl, which Americans don't go to and don't care about because it's boring, and move it to London. Move it to Germany. Move it to Japan. Move it to where Mexico City, where fans have never seen these players before, most likely. They're going to be really interested to go and see NFL players and get autographs. You're going to draw a lot of people. You're going to be able to play this game because they don't care win or lose. They're just excited to see NFL players they don't get to see ever. And you're going to draw a crowd. Plus, you're going to enhance your global image. And by the way, if you have fans there that are actually into the game and there to see the players and they're in a place they haven't played before, I bet you that game gets a little bit more exciting.
I think the players themselves would get to be a little more into it.
Yeah. It's a reward again.
It's still not going to be a lot of hitting, and that's fine.
It doesn't matter because at that point, what it is, it's giving the players a reward. You get a free trip somewhere in the world, and you get to go in and you get a vacation, and you get to be in front of people. Because what I was trying to say before is, before I lost my train of thought, was the point is not the game anymore, and not to draw TV numbers. The point is to expand your brand to different parts of the world like you never have before. And so now it doesn't matter what that game looks like. What matters is that you're expanding your brand to different parts of the world, and now it makes sense.
Sure. And MLB has been good about taking their World Series winner, going to Japan, going to Korea now.
Yeah, they're playing Korea games, South Korea,
going to South America,
Japan.
wherever.
Yep.
And they'll do that after the season. I don't think Mexico City, maybe you could get away with it, but I don't think you could take it away from the 32 teams. In the
Major League Baseball was a dumb idea. When I thought about it last night, I talked myself out of it. Like Major League Baseball, it doesn't make sense. But for the NFL, there's no reason not to do this.
None.
You can do a skills competition there. You can play a game there because, again, TV, you're making it so TV ratings that you're not getting anyway. TV ratings don't matter. You're actually giving your players a reward for great play, which is exactly what they're missing. And you're expanding your brand globally in ways you never have before. I can't believe nobody's ever thought about this in the NFL before.
As much as they're trying to move a team to Europe, I can't believe they haven't thought of it either, but
just keep putting it places. These players are going to work harder if they find out they're going to someplace overseas for a Pro Bowl nod. You move it to the end of the season and that game's being played in London, there is not a single player that won't go. There will be no alternates unless there's injuries.
My only question is, and the families would obviously go, but isn't it wintertime in London at the end of February, first part of March, in Germany? I'd want to go someplace
in my
warm.
argument.
I'd want to go someplace
Don't
warm.
poke holes in my argument. Go play in Australia
I'm trying to get you back to baseball.
I mean, I'm just saying, go play Australia then. And who cares if it's winter? Play it indoors. It's still someplace overseas. It's still beautiful there. Shut up. This was a great idea, and I don't appreciate you poking holes.
My job.
It'd be cold. Let me ask you this. Would you rather go to London in the winter, or would you rather go to Orlando ever?
I'd rather go to the south of France.
Okay, play it in France. But I'm asking you a question. Would you rather be in London in the winter or in Orlando?
I'd rather be in London at Christmas time so I could go and visit all of
the answer is London, even though you're not answering the question. The answer is London. You let me know what you think in the comments below. Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? You let us know in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. I think it's time to move on to some sad news.
Okay.
which is Fitzgerald. I forget his first name.
Pat Fitzgerald.
Pat Fitzgerald, thank you. I'm blanking on things today. Pat Fitzgerald was fired from Northwestern after an investigation where it shows that hazing had gone a little bit too far, especially when it comes to activities that are not suited for anybody ever.
He should have been fired. Because
how is this still happening in today's day and age, especially like a place in Chicago? And how is Northwestern... It was confusing. This whole thing was confusing because he's suspended for 2 weeks, and that's it. And not even during football season. That's it.
Investigation time.
More comes out, but they did investigate, and that's why they suspended him. And then more comes out. People talk and say that this was hazing in a sexual nature.
And that's the end of any career.
And then they go back, and then they fire him.
Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking, okay, is this, exaggerated at this point? But when that report came out and more came out, it's like, no, this isn't exaggerated. Like something happened here. And why did Northwestern react the way that they did in the first place?
I've never been a fan of hazing, and I've said this to you. I've said it to everybody that knows me. I never joined a fraternity when I was in college because I wasn't going to pay for my friends, and I wasn't going to be made to look foolish just to be a part of a fraternity.
Right.
Not doing it. I'll earn my way into an honors fraternity, which I did. But
humble brag.
Yeah. It was a humble brag, but it was a brag. It's one thing if you have freshman players or rookie players carry the veteran shoulder pads.
Right.
Or have to sing a song at dinner during training camp.
Right. Or, do the dishes at the first team meal where you just order a bunch of stuff on plates.
Or pay for dinner when they're out.
In the NFL, yeah.
Whatever. You do things like that. That's one thing. But I will never understand the hazing that goes on where you're going to hurt somebody.
You really are. Like this wasn't okay in the 40s and 50s. This isn't okay today. Going out to abuse somebody, and that's really what this is. Let's call it what it is. You're going out to abuse a kid. Why? What's the point of this? I've seen people tape somebody to a field goal post right after a game. Okay, that's funny. Right? That's not hurting anybody.
No, but
taking them down.
But taking a paddle to somebody.
Why are you doing that?
Why are you doing that? What jollies are you getting off of that? And how sadistic are you?
Right. What is happening here? And to have something like this, there's words that have come out of this that just boggle my mind. But the idea that Northwestern came out and said we couldn't find sufficient evidence that Pat Fitzgerald knew about this, well, then you got a bigger problem because your coach doesn't know what's going on in your team. And this was on the whiteboard. This was not only we're doing these terrible things to kids, but we're posting it on the whiteboard. And I don't know all the details. Still stuff is coming out on this.
So if it was on the whiteboard, it's hard for me to believe Fitzgerald didn't know about it.
I've heard from other people saying coaches aren't normally in the locker rooms. I have trouble believing.
If you're a head coach, let me put it to you this way. I expect Luke Fickell to know what's going on in the locker room in Wisconsin. I expect
100%.
Ryan Day to know what's going on in the Ohio State locker room. What brought what's his name down? Your former head coach and Florida coach.
Urban Meyer.
Yeah, he lost control and he didn't know what was going on. What brought Joe Paterno down? He didn't know about Jerry Sandusky. You better know what's going on in your program, and if you don't, bad things are going to happen. Learn the lessons of history.
Why would you ever want to build a culture like that? And I guess this is more of a discussion in general, but why would you want to bring a culture like that where your players are beating up on each other rather than pushing them harder? This isn't the Army where you're pushing people,
break them down and
build them back up. And even in that situation, you're not breaking them down where you're hurting them, where you're touching them in places that shouldn't happen. Nobody else is doing that. The Army definitely doesn't do that, right? I went through that training.
Sure.
That's not what they push you to the brink of exhaustion and then push you more to see what you got left in the tank.
And by the time you're done with that, after they push you, they build you back up to
Correct.
think you can do anything.
Oh, and by the way, once they push you past the point of exhaustion, they push you a little bit more.
Sure.
They push you to every ounce that you have, but you know what happens with your former, we weren't soldiers, it was just military training, right? But in the Army, let's use an example. What they do to former or your fellow soldiers do, they push you and encourage you and are there by your side, pushing you forward because you're all on the same side.
Correct.
It is they're going to push you, and we are going to rise above this together as a unit. If you're in a right, if you're in a football program as a coach, why wouldn't you want to push them athletically, push them on a field? Say you're going to cover this guy and you got beat 1,000 times. You're going to get beat again, and have your team helping him along the way to make that person better, not beat the hell out of them and abuse them. And then all of a sudden you're supposed to go in that locker room again and be friends with these people.
Can't happen.
How does that build a culture? How does that build a winning program?
I'm going to always use Vince Lombardi as my standard bearer, because he was that old school coach that beat you down and your whole team built you back up.
Right.
You know, he would do whatever to get you to play harder. Look at what he did to Jerry Kramer. He ridiculed him, but then he put a hand on his shoulder and said, "You're going to be one of the greatest ever," when he was back in the locker room after practice was over. But as far as your personal life, he openly had gay players in Green Bay and in Washington.
His brother was gay, wasn't he?
His brother was gay. And he had no tolerance for it.
No.
And he accepted every person on that team for what they could put out on the field.
Correct.
And that's what these coaches have seen.
And you're going to respect your fellow player.
Correct.
I'm going to push you. You are going to pull each other back up when I knock you down. That's how it works. And then we're going to go out on the field and we're going to beat the hell out of the people that are on the other side of that ball.
And we're going to win and lose as a team. And that's what you should do. And for some of these people, that lesson seems to have been lost.
I just don't understand. And a lot of these assistant coaches were former players. And so it makes sense if you went through it and you were that person and you did that, like you're not going to report that as something.
But if you went through that,
I don't know how you could do that to another person if you went through it. I don't know how you can laugh something like that off and just say it's okay. I mean, good for the brave kids that stood up and said, "I'm not doing this. This is unacceptable. I'm not going to let other kids."
It never would have happened when I was a kid. You never would have stood up and said, "This happened to me." And thank God that change has taken place.
Yeah.
And that kids have the courage now to stand up and go, "No, this is not happening anymore."
Right. I've played on a lot of sports teams, right? Not college level,
sure,
barely high school level on team stuff. But whenever it was a really good culture, even if you look at a culture at work, right? People are going to push you till you are done. And then you're going to get pulled right back up and you're going to say, "Listen, I'm going to help you out of this." Because you need to show that, hey, I'm willing to put in the work even when I'm losing.
What's the one thing I've always told you? You criticize in private and coach in private. You praise in public.
Right.
And
even if you criticize in public, because there are situations where you have to get a point across.
Sure. If you're on a field, football field in summertime, absolutely.
You're not getting it. It is what it is. Things are going to happen. The question then comes of you. Now what? How are you going to react to this? Are you going to give up? Are you going to take this? That's a culture. That's a winning culture. Having your players abuse younger players.
It's disgusting.
I mean, clearly you're allowing it to happen as a coach. There's no way you don't know about this.
Your players know that you condone it. Or
Correct.
They wouldn't do it.
Or they wouldn't do it.
Correct.
I tell you what, fear is good. It's not a bad thing. Fear of repercussions is what you need in order to keep, especially kids, in line.
Mm-hmm.
My kids don't fear me. I never feared you, but I did fear the consequences of my actions.
Because they were very clearly spelled out.
Correct. You know what's going to happen. I always have a funny line with my son, right? He used to ask a lot of silly questions. One of them was, "What happens if I touch the stove when it's on?" I said, "Try it. You only do it once."
Yeah.
And that was the point. All I needed to say. Because he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "What do you think is going to happen?" "Well, it's going to hurt." "So why would you ask?" Like that's simple. It's fear of repercussions. There were clearly no repercussions to this at all. They didn't have any fear of their coach in that way. And the fact that he allowed this, that he condoned this type of act, because there's no way he didn't know. But Northwestern did screw up on this, because in their statement, they said we cannot find any evidence that Pat Fitzgerald knew about this. Congratulations, you just lost your lawsuit.
Well, they're going to pay him out.
But he's suing for wrongful termination.
Well,
and you just admitted that it's wrongful termination.
Then it's going to be interesting to see, because they will find information. This will never get to a courtroom.
It won't. He'll
Never
be paid out whatever. But this has clearly been going on for a very, very long
He's been
time.
there since 2001 as a player, and then an assistant, and then a head coach in 2006, hired by Mark Murphy.
That's the question, is as this investigation goes on, who else is going to be taken down with this? And I tell you what, if this was going on during any AD and anybody else knew about this, they should be taken down. I'm done with this stuff. I'm just sick of it. This isn't how you build a team. And then what you do is you take away from people that do go through this.
Well, and you're not just building a team. You're building men
Correct.
who are going to have to live in society and pass on whether you like it or not.
Right.
Some of the best lessons I've ever learned, and you know them, have come from my tennis coach, John Paulus.
Hey, he pushed me.
Exactly. But I've carried those lessons through from the time I was 14, 15 through the rest of my life. And those lessons that they learned at Northwestern are going to be carried through. And if those are the lessons they learned,
right,
I don't want to be their kids. I don't want to be kids they coach or work with.
I tell you what, you look at the best leaders of all time, right? You mentioned Vince Lombardi. You think that happened there? No. Bobby Knight. You think that happened at Indiana? No. Pat Summitt. You think that happened at Tennessee? No. I mean, you could go down list and list and list of great leaders that we've seen in sports, but this is where sports gets a bad name. I'm sick and tired of it, because we have great leaders in the sports world. Sports builds characters. Sports can help take boys and turn them into men when done the right way. And it's people like this that give it a bad name and just ruin it.
And people are going to comment going, well, Bob Knight did this and that. Ask his players how they feel about him.
There's a different thing between pushing somebody to the point where they don't think they can go anymore and then proving to them that they can, versus allowing abuse of this nature on your field or court or facility.
And Bobby Knight took it right to the nth degree, but we're not going to get into that right now. So,
moving on to happier subjects.
You asked me a question earlier today.
Yeah, you're going to have to explain this one to me.
Go ahead, ask the question.
What is this NBA in-season tournament? And what is it? And why the hell are we doing this?
What is it? It's an early season, not a mid-season tournament. It goes from November 3rd to December 9th. And the reason they're doing it is because nobody cares about the NBA from the start of their season to Christmas.
Because it's football season.
It's football season.
It's the World Series.
Correct.
And then it's football.
Even Adam Silver.
Silver,
sorry. Io Silva. Anyways, when he was making his announcement, he was like, it's going to take time to grow. Don't expect too much. This is the way the players get some more money. It goes from November 3rd to December 9th, as I said. Finals and semifinals are in Vegas.
Football season.
Middle of football season, but they're breaking all
so they're playing on their own courts.
They're breaking it into 5 pods, I guess, 6 pods, whatever it is. 30 teams, 5 teams per pod. And they're going to play. And those games are going to count for the regular season until you get to the quarterfinals. And then they're going to start playing away.
Well, no, all the games count towards
the semifinals
regular season except the championship.
I thought the semifinals.
Except the championship.
Okay, fine. They're just trying to bring attention to it because those early season games have meant nothing, and the season is way too long. The NBA, because of COVID and different things, if they started on Christmas Day and ran it,
well, explain this to me. This is where I'm confused. So all the games are going to count towards the regular season. So how are you going to schedule the rest of the season?
I don't know.
Are you going to continue to play if you lose? Or are you just going to go and play games against the other teams that lost to count towards the regular season?
You're playing it
because
in your pod.
everybody's going to be out at some point, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you're in the semifinals, that's 4 teams playing games towards the championships, or are you just going to play regular season games then for those guys? Like, what does your scheduling look like?
That I haven't heard. I don't think so. And there's going to be, I think, 500,000 to the winner, each player on the winning team.
So how is this going to count towards like legacies towards players?
Somebody's going to be an MVP of the early season tournament.
But what does that mean?
Nothing. This is just the
Why
NBA.
are they doing this?
This is the Big Ten ACC challenge.
Yeah, but it's not though, because that's a challenge where all the teams the games count because you're playing against Wisconsin plays Duke, Ohio State plays North Carolina, and then you say who won Big Ten or ACC. Like that's completely, you're playing against one of those teams and then you move on. There's no championship there. You're not playing a tournament where all of a sudden you have a championship and then you're like, oh, all those count towards regular season. No, you're just playing games.
This is the NBA just trying to make itself relevant in the middle of football season.
But none of this makes sense. Like you're starting the season with a championship?
Yeah.
Like what's the point then of the regular season?
NASCAR's biggest tournament or biggest race is the first race of the season.
Yeah, which is fine because you've been racing. Because I mean, technically you could just count it as the end of the season, but that's also different because in NASCAR you work your way basically through the minors and then you get into the pros for this and then you race.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this is like, I heard Adam Silver talk about this is like soccer because there's cups throughout. Well, there's a reason Americans don't watch soccer. Because we're confused as hell on what's going on. It makes no sense.
Even these pods, the way they get to their pods was convoluted. I mean,
because you count records, but yet it's a random draw?
Kind of. Yeah. Well, here's what it says. Here's how they determine this. And they call them pots, not pods. The teams with the 3 best prior season records in a conference. Pot 2, the teams with the 4th through 6th best season records. Pot 3, the teams with the 7th through 9th.
And on and on.
And on and on and on. And I got
So you're going to watch bad teams play against bad teams.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see.
But how does it say you win the championship? What does that do towards, like, are you automatically in the playoffs then if you win this?
No. You still have to play your season.
So this means nothing.
Correct.
Why don't you just play your games and then have your championship?
Because the season is too long in the NBA.
Okay. Shorten the season.
I give them credit for trying something outside the box. I'll give them credit for that, but
this is summer league with pros.
Yeah.
You've just taken your summer league and said, we're going to put this in.
Well, here's my question. So
when they're playing this in Vegas, right?
The finals only.
So it's gambling.
Semifinals and finals.
Cool. So it's gambling. It's about gambling.
There's no gambling in sports.
Uh-huh. You're right. Your players aren't allowed to gamble, but they sure want other people gambling.
Well, exactly.
Which is fair. Like, I get it.
I look at these divisions, East, West, A, B, and C. They can say what they want. These are balanced. So there's some interest in them. Like in one, there's a Celtics, the Nets, the Hawks, the Bulls, and the Magic.
Why wouldn't you? Okay, I'm gonna go back to my All-Star game thing or the Pro Bowl thing. Why wouldn't you do this overseas? Because the United States is not watching this, right? So why don't you expand your global brand? That seems to be a big thing for the NBA. Why don't you play this someplace else? Why don't you play in Greece?
This is going to be on Tuesdays and Fridays. First part of the season. This is not going to make me want to go to an early season game any more than just going to an early season game.
No.
And I think they're hoping that the stars are going to play in this, and then they'll play the whole regular season.
Oh, is this about people sitting out?
It's got to be part of it.
Then why don't you just change the contracts that give people incentives for how many games they play?
Why don't the players just say, I'm not going to let the fans down and I'm going to play because
they don't have
what I do.
Because they're getting paid anyway. If it's becoming an issue, then why not just make their contract incentive laden rather than knowing that Kawhi Leonard's insensitive? Yeah. Rather than knowing that Kawhi's not going to play the first half. So say, okay, well, then we're not going to pay you as much. Like, you can do that instead.
That would take what is called a backbone.
I mean, this whole thing is dumb. But I mean, what would make sense to me, though, is again, you're trying to expand your global brand, right? So why wouldn't you play this in a different country?
Well, then
why won't you play this in China? Why won't you play this in Australia?
Really? I don't think we should play
France,
it in China.
which is fine. I'm just saying you have a big NBA following in China, right?
But then you're just like having another bubble tournament.
But you're not, though, because you're going to play in stadiums that are going to bring fans from other places.
If you take all the teams to another country,
yeah,
you're putting it in a bubble.
It's not exactly like the bubble was, but I get what you're saying. But you can play in different parts of the country, though. You can go to Italy and play all over Italy. You can go to, I mean, you play all over the United States. You can just go to Europe and literally play games in different stadiums with different teams in Europe. It's no different than how they travel in the United States right now.
And they are giving up on the early part of the season and just going.
But you're not, though. You're expanding your brand someplace else.
It belongs to football. We're not going to compete.
Well, it does. You're not going to anyway. It belongs to football and the World Series. That's what it belongs to, especially football during that time. The World Series is pretty much ending at that point. But it belongs to football. You know that. You can still put it on TV. I mean, people still go to the games in the U.S. to watch them. I'm just saying, like, if you want to do something like this, make it the European tournament. And then you can go and play in Europe. You can expand your brand. It's a little bit bigger than the U.S., but the travel is going to be pretty much exactly the same. You can designate, okay, the Bucks are France's team, right? You have like Wembanyama, or however you pronounce his name. I actually think I nailed that.
I think you nailed it.
I'm pretty impressed with myself.
If you nailed it, put it in the comments below and like and subscribe while you're there.
And hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy the show as much as we enjoy making it. Thank you for making me do that in the middle of a really good point. But you have Wembanyama playing for the Spurs. Why wouldn't you make their home stadium France? And then he gets to play in front of his own fans in Europe for regular season basketball games. We're getting a lot. You have Jokic, right? Why wouldn't you have Giannis? Why wouldn't you make the Bucks Greece? And then they can play their home games in Greece, and they get to see a Greek player play these games in front of his home country.
There are leagues in Europe that would probably have a problem
leagues in
with
Europe. And maybe that's part of it, but I'm saying, why isn't this part of the conversation making this happen? It's not as easy as the NFL. The NFL just needs to do that, and then you can, all you have to do, NFL, is say thank you to me in public, and I'll take that as, okay, I don't need any compensation unless you want to do that. So either give me compensation without giving me any type of praise, or just give me praise in public. I'll take either one.
Like baseball should do for the plan we came up with.
Exactly. Check written to Kyle Carney. You can put middle initial C if you need that, by the way. Well, the NFL idea was my idea. The baseball plan was ours. Make it out to us. Make it out to Sports Talk with Dad. The NFL, screw him. I came up with that idea. You can make that out as a personal check. I'm taking care of you when you're old anyway. That just gives me money to hire a nurse so I don't have to change your diapers. But I'm saying the NFL...
Really?
I mean, it's going to happen. Wow. It's okay. We become babies and we end as babies. We start as babies, end as babies.
That's gross.
It's true.
Give me...
Anyway, but this, I mean, think about it. Is that not a great idea?
For what? Taking the tournament over there? Yeah.
Why wouldn't you take the tournament and make it a European tournament? You know what else you could do? You have a lot of players coming from Africa now. I mean, I think you'd have to choose where in Africa to play. I mean, I know there's a lot of dangerous things going on there, but you could do that. Australia, you're getting some Australian players. You could do it down there. There's a lot of
nobody be let in. It's Australia lock you out for COVID reasons.
Maybe. Listen, we're pretending COVID is what it is, and it's done, right? But you could play in South America. Try and get people interested down there. But I think a European tournament, especially with all the European players now in the NBA, these guys now you're doing it now. It's not my mic anymore.
My mic just died on me.
You keep interrupting my amazing point, and I'm getting angry at you now.
Get angry at me. Go.
But with all the European players in the NBA now, you could allow these guys to play in front of their home countries and have a tournament over there to expand your brand. And then who Who cares? Who gives a shit about the American television? It's footballs. Nobody's tournament or no tournament. Nobody in the United States is going to give two shits about the NBA in November and December.
Even on Tuesdays and Fridays, nobody's going to be watching the NBA.
No, nobody's going to care.
Right.
So take this tournament, which could be a good idea, and I just expand NBA again. Public adoration or behind the scenes check.
You're good with either one.
I'm good with either one.
Okay.
I don't care. Give me one of them. But you could take this over to Europe, make it the European Championship for the NBA, and now this is something. And now not only is this something for the NBA, this is now something for your resume, right? And it's something that the European players are really going to hold on to.
They would like it, yes. I give the NBA credit for at least giving this a shot because there's nothing worse than the early NBA games. People don't usually show up for it. The games are sloppy.
Correct.
And it's
a preseason because nobody plays in the preseason.
Correct. The season starts on Christmas Day.
Correct. When they changed the season when it started, I honestly thought they were going to start it on Christmas Day. I don't know why they did.
Money. That's why.
I guess. Well, and you don't have a preseason, and so you want your players to be ready.
Well, they do have a preseason, and kind of one in October.
They have a summer league. They play a couple of games.
They play all year long.
Right. But if you actually have this, though, if you really want to make interest in this, don't play this in the U.S.
Well, they're going to play it wherever they can, and they're going to try it in the U.S., and I give them credit for giving it a shot. I don't think it's going to last very long.
Unless you do my idea. And again, it shows Sports Talk with Dad just comes up with great ideas for sports, and we should be hired as consultants because you really could make this work. Imagine if the Bucks' home country is Greece, and you can move it around. It depends on the players that are on your team, and that's where you play. The Spurs, their home country would be France at this point. England, give them whoever, because I don't think any NBA players come from England. But you have, Serbia, which has Jokic coming from. You have, I don't know who else in the NBA. I don't know NBA players that well.
They've got a lot of players from all over the world playing. I think they still want to try to maximize their U.S. audience and try to get people to watch again.
Though. But there's money being left on the table. Same thing with the Pro Bowl. You can make money elsewhere. Football is king, especially in November and December. Nobody's going to watch your stuff. It is what it is. You might as well take it to Europe where they don't have, I'm sure they have something with soccer going on, but this is something new to them that they've never seen before. And let's be honest, there are countries you could play in that have never seen men as big as these people are in the NBA because I've barely seen men as big as those people are in the NBA.
Of all the sports, the NBA is the most global.
It is.
And I think there would be a huge audience for it in Europe and overseas if they wanted to try this. And maybe they will in another year. They're just trying this for the first time. It's a money grab. Everything's done for money.
Trying to draw more interest in the NBA, and I can appreciate that. But it's for somebody, especially like Adam Silver, who claims the NBA is a global brand, and he says that all the time.
Sure.
The NBA is a global brand. Well, you're really only thinking inside the box of the United States. If this was really something you wanted to make a global brand, then you would do what the NFL is doing and Major League Baseball is doing, and you'd play games, regular season games, someplace else.
Which they've done in the Major League Baseball.
Major League Baseball starts their season in Japan. They start it in Korea. They do it all the time.
And
NFL obviously plays a tons of games over in Europe, which will continue, and then the Pro Bowl should move there too. Again, check for admiration. But the NBA doesn't do that for regular season games, and yet you've created this tournament, 67 games, right, that you could play in Europe and across the continent, all in different places.
And what are we talking about time frame? 6 weeks?
6 weeks. You tell me NBA players wouldn't enjoy 6 weeks every year where they get to travel across the world?
Thanksgiving would be here.
Give them Thanksgiving off.
And they miss Black Friday.
Boo-hoo.
But they'd be back for my birthday.
There's Prime Days going on, which I don't even know what that is. It's the same junk you get on Black Friday that nobody cares about and nobody needs.
Can't believe you went down that path, but okay.
Listen, I am a capitalist through and through, but I also understand when I'm being sold garbage.
I have no idea what Amazon Prime Day is. I don't even look.
I looked and I still have no idea what it is.
All
It's
right.
like, okay, you're giving discounts on stuff I still don't want. Got it. People fall in love with it though. Capitalism is a beautiful thing. Like I said, I'm all for it. Go for it. But you're being dumb. Because you could buy this, guess what? 2 days later, it's going to be the same price. And you still don't need it.
Feel better?
You still don't need it. You don't. I've had this conversation with my wife, okay?
Oh,
You
God.
don't need it. There's sales on stuffed animals. My youngest son loves stuffed animals, and I love him for that because he treats them like people. Like they have feelings to him. I made bad jokes about the stuffed animals once. That was a bad idea. I had to apologize a lot, and I love him for that. But he has 5 billion stuffed animals. The playroom, I have 2 nets, and there are still stuffed animals laying all over the ground.
You know where he
You
gets
don't need more stuffed animals.
I had a bedroom full of stuffed animals when I was his age.
That's great. That's great. Not every stuffed animal needs love. You just need 2 or 3 that you love a lot.
I love them all.
That's what I've been told by my son as well. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I go and grab them because they're at the bottom of a net. They haven't been seen for 2 years. And as soon as I pull them out to throw them away, that's now his favorite stuffed animal out of all of them.
And that's why I love.
Except the Batman one I got him. He wants nothing to do with that, but that one's not going in the garbage
Because it's Batman.
because it's Batman. That's a me thing, not a him thing.
Wow.
But Crystal, we don't need stuffed animals. I'm done with it.
You're going to lose that fight. It's
I already lost it. They're already
Yeah.
on the way. Because the sad part is his birthday's coming up too. So I really
know it
lose
is.
that battle.
Can't wait.
I really lose that battle. But the NBA though, I really think that they're thinking too much inside the box on this one. They are the only one of the major, really any of the major sports, because well, the NHL doesn't do it and they could do it too. But of the major 3 sports, they're the only one that don't play regular season games overseas. And this is a perfect opportunity for them to go and expand their brand truly globally and play in different parts of the world. If you create a European Cup, if that's what you really want to do, go do it. And then come back on Christmas when people actually start caring about the NBA again, and you're going to make a lot more money doing it that way.
Well, you could sell short-term season tickets for Europe.
You
And then
could.
start your season tickets over here. There's ways that you could actually maximize
People
your
will
dollars for
people
that.
vacation to go to NFL games overseas. Trust me.
Sure.
They will vacation to go and watch their teams play in Greece or Italy. You'll even have fans that I'm sure follow the teams around and do a whole European journey. It's great for Europe. It's great for the NBA. It's great for a new brand of fans because you're going to sell out those
Oh, absolutely.
stadiums, at least at first. And if it doesn't work, bring it back.
Well, it's worth a shot.
But it's worth a shot. It's
And let's
thinking
see what
outside
it-
the box.
Let's see what. So is this tournament here? Let's see what happens this first year, and then we can go. From
Yeah, but
there.
this tournament's dumb because they're not using my idea. I just don't think it's going to make a difference. I really don't. The America is the NFL, especially during November and December when every team still has a chance.
Sure.
It is NFL centric. You putting a tournament in is not going to get Americans interested in the NBA during that time period. It's just not going to happen. Therefore, you can take this overseas and you get a new TV audience. Guess what? You're going to have new deals with the TV audience. You sell separate season tickets in those countries, right? Or just sell single game tickets and people will go. Each country can get their own team. You can either keep them there or move them. And then you bring them back to the United States. When Christmas time happens, you open the American season on Christmas Day and you're good to go.
There you go, NBA.
I win.
Land is there for the offering.
Again, public admiration or a nice check. Either way works. I'll take it.
I prefer both.
But I think you and I have had a good show today.
With the exception of the technical issues I've had.
That's part of the fun show. It's happened to me. Now it's happened to you. It is what it is. We need better stands.
We are going to be getting them tomorrow.
So in order for, Prime Day is going on, right? We
Yeah,
just
there you
talked
go.
about it. So if you'd like us to get new mic stands, we need more subscribers. So do me a favor. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the NBA going over to Europe for the in-season tournament and the NFL going overseas for the Pro Bowl. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. I swear I say that in my sleep at this point. But you cannot have a conversation with your father without your dad getting the last word. So, sir, it is all you.
So we've talked about Riley Gaines on this program a few times, and my vocal support for her and what she's done and what she's been through. So it was announced that Outkick is going to be having a Riley Gaines program. It's going to be called Gaines for Girls. And I'm excited for it. It kicks off tomorrow. So I would encourage everybody, after you've watched Sports Talk with Dad, to check out her podcast, because she is fighting a fight that's worth fighting. All of this crap about men competing against women needs to stop. And she's leading the way on that. She was cheated out of a higher title in the NCAA by having to compete against men, and it shouldn't have happened. So go and check out Gaines for Girls on Outkick, and I think it's going to be a fun podcast because she has got some great takes and it's fun to listen to.
I think it's a great last word. Thank you all, as always, for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.